7 things you probably didn't know you need to know. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Smart 7.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's Friday the 4th of November, and it's Fountain Pen Day. And a big happy birthday to Louise Redknapp, Sean Williamson, Matthew McConaughey and Ralph Macchio. The Bank of England announced its biggest interest rise for 3 decades, hiking its base rate to 3%. It'll mean more expensive mortgage repayments for many. The bank also warned that the UK is facing the longest recession since the 1920s, as Governor Andrew Bailey explained why they're hiking rates again.
Well, quite simply, we're increasing bank rate because inflation is too high. And it's the bank's job to bring it down.
The pound dropped sharply against the dollar after the news. Speaking to Sky News, Charles Goodhart, former member of the Monetary Policy Committee, agreed the problems have been exacerbated by the mini-budget and Liz Truss's political decisions.
And you can see by looking at the timing of the changes in interest rates that there was a clear, strong and very adverse reaction to the mini-budget.
The Chancellor insisted the government's trying to stabilise the economy. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer happened to be on Times Radio when the interest rate rise was announced and recognised how worried people will be about their finances.
There is a Tory premium now on mortgages, and families will look at that figure, know how difficult things are now and shudder that because of the failure of the last 12 years, they now, working families across the country, are going to be paying the price.
Pressure's mounting on Suella Braverman to get a grip on the chaos in the asylum system as the Home Secretary visited the Mancheste Migrant Centre on Thursday. She came in on an RAF Chinook, which reportedly cost £3,500 per hour to fly. Poor conditions have been reported at the centre in Kent, which is designed to house 1,600 people, but had as many as 4,000 staying there at the weekend. The Home Office, meanwhile, said it was working closely with Albania to tackle illegal migration, but Albania's Prime Minister Edi Rama told the BBC his people aren't to blame.
It's about finding scapegoats and blaming others, while it's very obvious even from Tirana, which is not near to London, that it's about failed policies.
Chancellor Jeremy Hunt says it's a number one priority for the government to get the situation under control.
We have a system that isn't working, and it's got particularly bad in the last couple of years, and we're determined to grip that problem.
And Labour's called the situation incredibly concerning. Here's party chair Annalise Dobbs.
It's very worrying, actually, that we have a Home Secretary who was warned about this situation, in fact, whose officials said she needed to deal with it, but chose not to.
The inquiry into the Manchester Arena bombing says the performance of the emergency services was far below the standard it should have been. Thursday saw the second of 3 reports published, and it was highly critical of the emergency services, finding that at least one victim's injuries were survivable. 22 people were killed at the Ariana Grande concert in 2017. Inquiry Chair Sir John Saunders says a number of bad decisions were made.
And there were significant failings by a number of organisations in preparation and training for an emergency such as this, and in their actions on the night of the attack.
The inquiry has made 149 recommendations. Emergency services have since admitted major flaws in their response to the bombing, and after outlining changes implemented by the North West Ambulance Service, Chief Executive Darren Mockery addressed the families.
On occasions like this, the word sorry has the risk of sounding hollow. Nevertheless, I want to make it clear that whilst our actions were well-intentioned, we apologise wholeheartedly for our failures.
The midterm elections are looming, with Americans preparing to head to the polls on Tuesday. But Joe Biden's warned American democracy is under threat as Donald Trump and the Big Lie Republicans still refuse to accept the 2020 election result. Congress is elected around halfway through a president's 4 years in power, and forecasts suggest Republicans will win control of the House of Representatives, while the Senate could go either way. In a televised address to the nation, the US president had this message for voters.
I know there's a lot at stake in these midterm elections, from our economy to the safety of our streets to our personal freedoms, the future of health care, Social Security, Medicare. It's all important. But there's something else at stake. Democracy itself.
Still to come on the Smart 7, Arsenal and Man U both win in Europe, and Chris O'Dowd went car shopping on Craigslist. Right after this. Welcome back. Thursday night saw the last of the group stage of the Europa League, with Man United and Arsenal both in action. United faced Real Sociedad in Spain and grabbed a 1-0 win, which wasn't enough to top the group, so they now face a playoff against a team dropping out of the Champions League. Arsenal took on Zurich and won 1-0 to top their group and avoid a playoff, with 5 wins out of 6 in the group. Manager Mikel Arteta was very happy.
Yeah, job done. It's never easy to win that many games in Europe. We've done it. I don't think it was the prettiest game that we've played, but we managed to win the game.
Irish actor and comedian Chris O'Dowd's been talking about apple bobbing with his kids on The Late Late Show. He joked he'd throw an onion in the water to keep them on their toes and said the family dressed up as cats for Halloween, as it was the only thing left in the shop. Then there was the throwback to buying his first car, which really didn't go to plan.
My first car cost me $2,000 and I paid for it in cash off a guy in a Burger King in San Diego. You remember Craigslist? Anyway, I would notice people would come out of nowhere to push this car when it would break down.
Right.
This on crutches, out of nowhere, pushing the car.
13 years after the first instalment, the full trailer for James Cameron's second Avatar movie, The Way of Water, has been released. It focuses on the Sully family more than a decade after the events of the first film. Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana are back, with Sigourney Weaver also returning as Dr. Grace Augustine. Titanic actress Kate Winslet also joins the sci-fi sequel, which is due out in cinemas next month, and rumour has it will run for more than 3 hours. Oh, God.
I hear her heartbeat. She's so close.
So what does her heartbeat sound like?
Mighty.
This has been The Smart 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Have a great day. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.